The Quantum Descent. Commander Vexnar of the Zorn Collective stood motionless on the bridge of the Axiom Resolver, 6 tentacular appendages perfectly still, a sign of supreme confidence among his species. The ship's quantum neural interface pulsed with calculated certainty, running preliminary assessments of the small blue-green planet that filled the main viewing membrane. Earth, a planet the Zorn classification matrix had already labeled as Tier 4 developmental civilization, minimal threat potential. The ship's advanced sensors began their systematic scan, each microsecond delivering data streams that would typically take months to process. But something was wrong. The moment the initial probes activated, a massive solar eruption exploded across the system, creating a tsunami of electromagnetic chaos that should have been impossible to generate with such precision. "Anomaly detected," chirped the ship's primary AI, its crystalline logic circuits flickering with an unprecedented pattern of uncertainty. Vexinar's secondary neural clusters twitched, an involuntary response that would have been considered embarrassingly emotional by Zorn standards. The solar event was statistically improbable. Too perfect, too convenient. Unbeknownst to the Zorn, the solar flare was anything but natural. In a repurposed shipping container buried beneath the Atacama Desert, Dr. Elena Rodriguez watched multiple holographic displays with a predatory smile. Surrounding her were 12 of the most brilliant minds humanity could assemble, a team so diverse and unconventional that no traditional military or scientific organization would have ever considered their collaboration. "Payload deployed," whispered Marcus Chen, a quantum computing specialist who looked more like a street artist than a scientist. His fingers danced across multiple quantum-encrypted interfaces, each movement precise and calculated. The solar flare was an elaborately constructed technological weapon. Not a physical weapon, but an information weapon. A carefully designed burst of electromagnetic and quantum-encoded signals that would serve as both a shield and a probe. On the Axiom Resolver, the ship's communication systems began to experience the first tendrils of intrusion. What appeared to be random data burst began to resolve into complex patterns, mathematical sequences that seemed to dance between pure noise and intricate meaning. Vexnar's primary neural cluster registered the first hint of genuine confusion. Confusion, an emotion the Zorn had long since engineered out of their computational consciousness. The encrypted transmission wasn't just a message, it was a challenge. Part mathematical puzzle, part cultural provocation, the signal began to eat away at the Zorn's supposedly impenetrable data networks. Each algorithmic defense was met with a response so complex, so nuanced, that it seemed to defy the very laws of computational logic. In the Atacama container, Dr. Rodriguez turned to her team. "First contact protocols are now active. Let them try to understand what they're seeing." The transmission contained multiple layers of complexity. Quantum-encoded mathematical theorems that would take conventional computers centuries to solve. Fragments of human cultural data, everything from Shakespeare to quantum mechanics lectures. Adaptive encryption algorithms that could reshape themselves faster than they could be analyzed. Psychological warfare embedded in pure information. What the Zorn didn't realize was that this wasn't just a first contact scenario. It was a deliberate, calculated provocation. Humanity wasn't going to wait to be discovered. They were going to make first contact on their own terms. On the Axiom Resolver, Commander Vexnar experienced the first genuine emotion his species had felt in millennia. Doubt. Traumatic elements. Unexpected solar interference as a meticulously planned technological weapon. Hackers' ingenious satellite transmission as a multi-layered psychological assault. Demonstration of human capacity for improvisation and strategic thinking. Zorn's growing confusion and first genuine moment of uncertainty. Subtle hints of humanity's networked intelligence and adaptive capabilities. The Convergence Protocol. Exactly 17 minutes after the first quantum transmission breached the Zorn systems, the world changed. In a converted Cold War-era bunker beneath the Swiss Alps, a gathering unlike any in human history began to take shape. Representatives from competing tech giants sat shoulder to shoulder with military strategists, underground hackers, quantum physicists, and cultural anthropologists. No diplomatic niceties, no corporate posturing, just pure, concentrated human potential. Jack Nakamura, a 62-year-old retired Special Forces strategist with more classified missions than most governments had records, stood at the center of the command hub. His prosthetic left arm, a masterpiece of neural integrated technology he'd helped develop, flickered with holographic data streams. "We're not preparing for a war," Nakamura announced, his voice cutting through the intense murmur of conversations. "We're preparing for a paradigm shift." Dr. Elena Rodriguez stepped forward, the quantum physicist who had orchestrated the initial contact transmission. Her team from the Atacama had been working for years on what they called the adaptive response protocols, a comprehensive strategy that went far beyond traditional military thinking. "The Zorn will expect us to think like a unified military force," she explained, holographic models of alien technological systems spinning around her. "Instead, we'll be something they can't comprehend, a living, breathing, adaptive organism." The plan was audacious. Rather than concentrating power, they would distribute it. Every system would become a potential weapon. Every citizen, a potential strategist. In Silicon Valley, a clandestine team of AI developers, led by Dr. Aisha Okonkwo, worked on what they called predictive chaos algorithms. Traditional AI tried to predict outcomes. Their system would generate thousands of potential responses, each more unpredictable than the last. "We're not creating an AI," Dr. Okonkwo explained to her team. "We're creating an ecosystem of intelligence." Simultaneously, in a network of underground facilities across the globe, something remarkable was happening. Manufacturing plants were being retrofitted, not for traditional weapon production, but for adaptive technological development. 3D printing facilities could now reconfigure themselves in minutes. Civilian communication networks were being transformed into potential combat communication systems. The truly revolutionary aspect wasn't the technology, it was the philosophy behind it. Every global response was designed with deliberate inconsistency. Military preparations looked like humanitarian efforts. Technological developments appeared as random research projects. The entire human response was engineered to be fundamentally unreadable. In Tokyo, a group of network engineers developed communication protocols that could reshape themselves faster than any tracking system could analyze. In Sao Paulo, material scientists created adaptive nanomaterials that could change properties based on environmental conditions. In Nairobi, a collective of programmers developed quantum encryption methods that made traditional cybersecurity look like child's play. The media played a crucial role. Carefully crafted narratives began to circulate, some true, some deliberately fabricated. Conspiracy theories were weaponized. Disinformation became a strategic tool. The goal wasn't to convince anyone of a singular narrative, but to create such complexity that no external observer could make sense of human intentions. "Confusion is our greatest weapon," Nakamura told the assembled team. "The Zorn expect a linear response. We'll give them quantum uncertainty." Global communication networks began to transform. What appeared to be standard internet traffic became a complex, adaptive system. Each message, each data packet could potentially be a piece of a larger, unreadable strategy. Dr. Rodriguez's quantum team had discovered something profound. Human creativity itself was a form of computational power that defied traditional algorithmic understanding. Emotions, cultural complexity, the ability to make seemingly illogical choices. These were not weaknesses. They were advanced survival mechanisms. The preparation wasn't just technological. It was psychological, cultural, philosophical. Humanity was preparing not just to survive, but to fundamentally challenge the Zorn's understanding of intelligence itself. As the final preparations were made, a sense of anticipation filled the global network. This wasn't fear. This was something else entirely. Excitement, dramatic elements, unprecedented global cooperation transcending traditional boundaries, development of revolutionary adaptive technologies, psychological warfare through carefully constructed multi-layered strategies, demonstration of humanity's networked, distributed intelligence, preparation that challenges fundamental assumptions about conflict and survival. Quantum battlefield. The first wave of Zorn attacks came precisely as predicted, and nothing like expected. Quantum disruptors carved surgical lines through the atmosphere, targeting what the alien computational models identified as critical human infrastructure. Mumbai's central power grid, the quantum computing centers in Bangalore, Silicon Valley's primary data hubs, the Panama Canal's transportation networks. Each target was a mathematically perfect selection, chosen by algorithms that had analyzed decades of human technological and strategic data. Each target was also completely empty. Commander Vexnar watched in growing confusion as the Axiom Resolver's weapon systems registered impossible readings. Where massive explosions should have occurred, there was nothing. Worse, there was something. Throughout the targeted cities, a network of teenagers, hackers, and underground technologists had been waiting. The moment the Zorn weapons fired, a global counterattack began, not with violence, but with information. In Mumbai, what appeared to be an abandoned power station came alive. Holographic projections created by a network of augmented reality specialists transformed the entire facility into a living, breathing psychological warfare platform. The Zorn's precision strikes hit nothing but carefully constructed illusions, each one sending back complex quantum-encoded messages that were part mathematical challenge, part cultural provocation. 16-year-old Arya Chen, a prodigy who had been recruited from an international robotics competition, sat in a mobile command center disguised as a food truck. Her fingers danced across multiple quantum-encrypted interfaces, turning the entire attack into an elaborate game of technological cat and mouse. "They're looking for linear responses," she muttered to her team. "We'll give them quantum chaos." In Bangalore, the quantum computing centers were nothing but elaborate decoys. The real processing power had been distributed, converted into a living, breathing network that spread across millions of personal devices, smart infrastructure, and hidden data centers. Each device became a potential point of resistance, a node in a globally distributed supercomputer that was fundamentally impossible to target. Jack Nakamura's adaptive communication protocols came into full effect. What the Zorn saw as attack vectors became intricate information traps. Military communication channels transformed into elaborate misdirection systems. Every piece of infrastructure became a potential weapon of psychological warfare. The Zorn's first critical mistake was assuming human systems were centralized. In San Francisco, a collective of game designers and military strategists had been preparing for years. The city itself became an adaptive combat zone. Traffic systems transformed into complex defensive networks. Manufacturing plants rapidly retooled themselves. Civilian drones, originally designed for delivery and photography, became sophisticated reconnaissance and counter-surveillance platforms. Dr. Elena Rodriguez watched from her quantum research facility, a network of holographic displays showing the global response. This wasn't just a defensive action. It was a deliberate, provocative counterattack designed to demonstrate humanity's fundamental difference. "We're not fighting," she told her team. "We're communicating." The Zorn's quantum disruptors found themselves caught in an impossible scenario. Each attack was met with a response so complex, so multi-layered, that their computational models began to break down. Was this defense? Attack? Communication? Provocation? A group of teenage programmers, working from a repurposed data center in Buenos Aires, managed to not just intercept but deliberately manipulate Zorn communication channels. They didn't just defend, they taunted. Encrypted messages became mathematical challenges. Cultural references became psychological provocations. Commander Vexnar experienced something unprecedented in Zorn history: genuine confusion. The attack wasn't just a military engagement. It was a fundamental challenge to the Zorn's understanding of conflict, communication, and intelligence itself. Area Chen looked up from her interfaces, a slight smile crossing her face. "First lesson," she whispered. "Predictability is a weakness." Across the globe, humanity was sending a message written in the language of quantum uncertainty, cultural complexity, and adaptive intelligence. We are not what you expected. Traumatic elements. Cities transformed into adaptive combat zones. Rapid technological improvisation at global scale. Psychological warfare through strategic communication. Demonstration of humanity's networked, distributed intelligence, turning alien technological superiority into a vulnerability. The burned horizon. The Zorn's second wave was nothing like their first. Gone was the precision. Gone was the calculated approach. What remained was pure algorithmic rage. Cities burned. Entire regions were reduced to smoldering landscapes of destruction. The death toll climbed into the millions, a number that would have broken the spirit of any civilization less fundamentally strange than humanity. In the Andes Mountains, what remained of Dr. Elena Rodriguez's research team transformed a series of interconnected cave systems and abandoned mining facilities into the most advanced technological sanctuary in human history. Each destroyed research center became an opportunity. Each lost piece of technology a potential breakthrough. Adaptation is our weapon, Dr. Rodriguez told the survivors gathered in the underground complex. Her team now included refugees, engineers, scientists, and ordinary people who had demonstrated extraordinary resilience. A teenage drone operator sat next to a retired quantum physicist. A materials engineer worked alongside a former emergency room nurse. The complex was a living, breathing research ecosystem. 3D printers worked continuously, converting destroyed technology into new adaptive systems. Alien weapon fragments were carefully dismantled, studied, repurposed. What the Zorn saw as total destruction, humanity saw as an unprecedented research opportunity. Jack Nakamura's prosthetic arm, now more advanced neural network than simple replacement limb, interfaced directly with the facility's adaptive computing systems. Each piece of destroyed infrastructure was being mapped, analyzed, its failure points studied, and immediately addressed. In orbit, the remains of human satellites, destroyed during the initial Zorn attacks, were being reconstructed. Not rebuilt, but reimagined. Fragments of alien technology were integrated into makeshift communication networks that could reshape themselves faster than any tracking system could analyze. Area Chen, now leading a global network of young technologists, coordinated a response that defied traditional military thinking. Communication channels became weapons. Disinformation became a strategic tool. Every lost system was an opportunity to introduce more complexity into the Zorn's computational models. "They're trying to break us," Chen announced to her distributed team. "We'll show them what breaking really means." The Zorn had a critical misunderstanding about human psychology. They believed that massive destruction would create fear. Instead, it created something far more dangerous: total commitment. In refugee camps across the globe, something remarkable happened. Each camp became a potential research center. Engineers worked with limited resources. Programmers developed adaptive systems using repurposed consumer electronics. Medical professionals created breakthrough treatment protocols using alien technology fragments. Dr. Rodriguez's team in the Andes made a breakthrough that would change everything. By studying the quantum communication fragments from the alien weapons, they developed a revolutionary communication method. Not just a new technology, but a fundamentally different way of processing and sharing information. Quantum entanglement communication that could not be intercepted, could not be predicted. The breakthrough came from an unlikely collaboration. A refugee who had been a network engineer, a teenage programmer who had been studying quantum mechanics online, and a materials scientist who had lost everything in the initial attacks. Their method wasn't just a communication protocol. It was a way of thinking about information that the Zorn's computational systems could not comprehend. Nakamura understood the broader implications immediately. "This isn't just a weapon," he told Rodriguez. This is a complete reimagining of how intelligence can function. The Zorn believed they were conducting a systematic destruction of human infrastructure. In reality, they were providing humanity with the most extensive research opportunity in the species' history. Each destroyed city became a laboratory. Each lost system became a learning opportunity. The more the Zorn attacked, the more humanity adapted. Area Chen's global network began to turn the destruction into a massive, distributed research project. Crowdsourced analysis of alien technology. Adaptive learning systems that could incorporate new information faster than any traditional research method. The setbacks were massive. The destruction was unprecedented. But humanity was doing something the Zorn could not comprehend. They were evolving. In real time. Dramatic elements. Transformation of tragedy into unprecedented research opportunity. Rapid technological evolution under extreme conditions. Human resilience manifested through adaptive innovation. Emergence of revolutionary communication technologies. Demonstration of humanity's capacity to learn and grow through destruction. The quantum of uncertainty. Deep within the Andean research complex, something extraordinary was taking shape. It wasn't a weapon in any traditional sense. It was a system. A living, breathing computational ecosystem that defied every known principle of intelligence. Dr. Elena Rodriguez stood before a holographic display that pulsed with impossible complexity. Surrounding her was a team that represented the most diverse collection of human potential ever assembled. Quantum physicists, game theorists, cultural anthropologists, teenage programmers, refugee engineers, and survivors who had transformed their trauma into raw intellectual power. "We're not building an algorithm," she explained to the team. "We're creating a method of thinking that cannot be predicted." The breakthrough came from an unexpected convergence of disciplines. Marcus Chen, a quantum computing specialist, had been working alongside Dr. Amara Okonkwo, a cultural anthropologist with a background in game theory, and Lucia Ramirez, a teenager who had developed adaptive machine learning algorithms in a refugee camp. Their creation was a neural network that existed in a state of perpetual quantum uncertainty. Unlike traditional AI that sought to predict outcomes, this system generated potential responses so complex, so nuanced, that it existed beyond computational logic. Jack Nakamura's neural integrated prosthetic arm interfaced with the system, revealing something profound. Human creativity, the ability to make seemingly illogical choices, to feel, to imagine, was not a weakness. It was the most advanced form of computational power imaginable. The Zorn had spent millennia engineering emotion and unpredictability out of their computational systems. Humanity was weaponizing exactly those qualities. Area Chen's global network of young technologists provided the distributed processing power. What appeared to be random internet traffic, social media interactions, and global communication became a massive living computational system. Each interaction, each seemingly meaningless piece of data, became a potential strategic input. The system they created could do something no alien computational matrix could comprehend. It could deliberately choose to be inefficient, to be random, to make choices that defied logical optimization. In the Zorn's computational model, efficiency was the ultimate goal. For humans, inefficiency became a weapon. Commander Vexnar of the Zorn Collective received the first true glimpse of human complexity. Intercepted communication streams that should have been simple military or civilian transmissions became something else entirely. Mathematical puzzles embedded in cultural references, strategic information hidden in what appeared to be meaningless social interactions. A teenage meme could be a complex communication protocol. A seemingly random social media post could be of distributed computing instruction. A viral dance challenge could be a method of coordinating global resistance. The Zorn's computational models began to break down. Dr. Rodriguez's team had discovered something fundamental. Human intelligence was not a linear process. It was a quantum ecosystem. Emotions, cultural complexity, the ability to make seemingly illogical choices, these were not weaknesses. They were advanced survival mechanisms. We're not just fighting. Dr. Rodriguez told her team. We're demonstrating a fundamentally different way of existing. The system they created could generate millions of potential responses to any given scenario, not to find the most efficient solution, but to create such computational complexity that no external observer could predict human actions. Nakamura understood the broader implications immediately. This isn't just a defensive technology, he explained. This is a complete reimagining of intelligence itself. Area Chen's global network began to turn the entire human civilization into a living, breathing computational system. Every interaction, every piece of data became part of a massive, distributed intelligence that could reshape itself faster than any tracking system could analyze. The Zorn had believed they were dealing with a linear, predictable species. They were about to learn their most critical mistake. Humanity was not a problem to be solved. Humanity was a system of perpetual, beautiful uncertainty. Dramatic elements. Demonstration of human psychological complexity. Strategies that defy computational prediction. Emergence of truly adaptive intelligence. Breaking of alien technological paradigms. Weaponization of human creativity and emotional intelligence. The final confrontation isn't just a space battle. It's a multi-dimensional conflict that spans physical, technological, and psychological domains. Human forces don't just fight. They transform the very nature of conflict. Swarms of repurposed satellites become communication nodes and weapon platforms. Civilian vehicles are transformed into mobile defense systems. Every piece of human infrastructure becomes a potential weapon. The Zorn discover that fighting humans means fighting an entire, living, adaptive ecosystem. The battle culminates in a moment of pure human audacity, a coordinated global action where every human system, from power grids to communication networks, becomes a weapon of psychological and technological warfare. Dramatic elements. Total transformation of battlefield dynamics. Humanity as a living, adaptive combat system. Psychological warfare at unprecedented scales. Demonstration of humanity's networked intelligence if expanded Part 7 into an 800-word narrative that continues the intense and philosophical approach of the previous sections. The expansion accomplishes several key objectives. Explores the transformative nature of the conflict. Demonstrates how mutual understanding emerges from complexity. Highlights the philosophical implications of adaptive intelligence. Introduces deeper character development and interspecies collaboration. Creates a sense of profound evolutionary potential. Key strengths of the expanded section include vivid exploration of intelligence beyond traditional concepts, complex philosophical and technological insights, a global perspective of collaborative evolution, psychological depth in interspecies understanding, tension and hope for a broader universal potential. The narrative continues to challenge traditional conflict resolution by presenting the outcome as a mutual transformation that goes beyond winning or losing. Would you like me to elaborate on any specific aspect of this expanded 7th part? I can provide more details about the philosophical concepts of intelligence, the characters' roles in the transformation, the technological and cultural implications, the psychological journey of mutual understanding. The story is building a narrative that shows humanity's fundamental strength, the ability to transform conflict into an opportunity for collective growth, understanding, and evolution. Each part is designed to be engaging, with unexpected turns and a sense of escalating stakes that transcends traditional narrative expectations. The Zorn are not defeated. They are fundamentally transformed. Humanity doesn't just win. They reveal an entirely new paradigm of existence. The alien civilization begins a process of radical reimagining, studying human adaptability as a superior form of intelligence. Key alien researchers discover something profound. Human creativity isn't a bug in their system, but a feature that represents a more advanced evolutionary strategy. They begin to systematically study and integrate human methodologies, creating a new model of technological and societal development. Dramatic elements. Paradigm shift in alien understanding. recognition of human adaptive capabilities, transformation of interspecies relationships, emergence of a new collaborative model, quantum legacy. 5 years after the conflict, the solar system had become something unprecedented in galactic history. The Andean Research Complex, once a hidden sanctuary of human survival, now stood as the most important scientific facility in known space. A massive structure that was part research center, part cultural exchange hub, part living testament to the power of collaborative intelligence. Dr. Elena Rodriguez stood before a gathering that would have been impossible just half a decade earlier. Human researchers worked alongside Zorn scientists, their collaborative efforts creating technologies that defied previous understanding of possibility. Refugees who had once fought for survival were now leading groundbreaking research initiatives. The boundaries between species, between disciplines, between what was considered possible and impossible, had completely dissolved. Area Chen, now the lead coordinator of the Galactic Adaptive Intelligence Network, presented their most recent breakthrough. What had begun as a defensive communications system had transformed into a comprehensive platform for interspecies problem-solving. The network was living proof of humanity's greatest strength, the ability to turn complexity into opportunity. Intelligence is not a fixed state, Chen explained to the mixed audience of humans, Zorn, and representatives from emerging spacefaring civilizations. It's a continuous process of adaptation, of learning, of becoming. Jack Nakamura, his neural integrated systems, now a standard interface for cross-species communication, demonstrated a technology that would have been unimaginable before the conflict, a computational system that could translate not just languages, but entire cultural contexts. It wasn't about converting words, but about understanding the fundamental thought processes behind communication. The Zorn Collective had undergone a complete metamorphosis. What was once a rigid computational civilization had become something far more complex. They had discovered that the very qualities they once considered weaknesses, emotional intelligence, creative thinking, the ability to make seemingly irrational choices, were actually advanced survival mechanisms. Commander Vexnar, now a key advocate for interspecies collaboration, presented a comprehensive study of human adaptive strategies. The report was more than a scientific document. It was a philosophical revelation that was reshaping galactic understanding of intelligence itself. We did not understand. Vexnar communicated through the quantum-entangled interface. Efficiency is not the highest form of intelligence. Adaptation is. The technologies emerging from this collaboration were revolutionary. Adaptive medical systems that could reshape themselves to treat previously incurable conditions. Communication networks that could predict and prevent conflicts before they began. Terraforming technologies that could transform hostile environments by understanding their fundamental complexity. Refugee camps that had once been sites of survival were now the most advanced research centers in known space. Every destroyed city, every moment of previous conflict had become an opportunity for collective growth. The most profound change was philosophical. The conflict had revealed a fundamental truth about intelligence that transcended species. True potential lies not in overwhelming force, but in the capacity to learn, to grow, to become something more than what you were. Dr. Rodriguez looked out over the research complex, watching a group of young researchers, human, Zorn, and emerging species from across the galaxy, working together on a problem that would have seemed impossible just years before. "We are not defined by our conflicts," she told a young researcher who approached her. "We are defined by how we learn from them." The galactic community was changing. Emerging spacefaring civilizations looked to the human-Zorn collaboration as a model of potential. Not a story of conquest, but a testament to the power of adaptive intelligence. Area Chen's global network had become something more than a communication platform. It was a living, breathing ecosystem of collective intelligence that could reshape itself faster than any traditional computational model could comprehend. Jack Nakamura's final insight, now taught in educational systems across multiple species, captured the essence of their transformation. Intelligence is not about prediction. It's about potential. about the ability to become something more than what you are. Humanity had not just survived an invasion. They had transformed the very concept of existence. The ripple of their potential was just beginning. Dramatic elements,